Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into the U.S. Hypersonic Weapons Program today. You know, we always hear about this race with China to develop these, well, game-changing weapons.
Hmm.
And we're going beyond the headlines. We'll uncover a story of ambition, bureaucratic battles, and a scientist's side hustle that took a very unexpected turn.
Yeah, what's so fascinating here is the human element intertwined with this, cutting-edge technology.
Right.
It reminds us that even with advanced weaponry, personal choices, systemic flaws, they can have huge consequences.
So first things first. Anyone need a refresher on what makes a weapon hypersonic?
Okay, so we're talking weapons traveling at Mach 5 or faster, 5 times the speed of sound.
Wow.
And they maneuver through the atmosphere.
Making them.
Incredibly difficult to track and to intercept. Imagine a missile that can dodge and weave like a fighter jet, but at unbelievable speeds.
That's pretty terrifying. So the U.S. was exploring this back in the Cold War, right? But then the research kind of fizzled out.
Right, the focus shifted to other technologies, like multiple warheads. Advanced guidance systems for those ballistic missiles. Hypersonics, with all their complexity, got put on the back burner.
And then fast forward to the 2000s, hypersonics are suddenly back in the spotlight. Enter Michael Griffin,
Absolutely.
big name in the space world.
Brilliant engineer. Led the Mars rover missions as NASA administrator, had this intense drive to push boundaries, technological boundaries.
That's right.
The Trump administration brought him in to revitalize the U.S. hypersonic program.
And Griffin, he was determined to make the U.S. a dominant force in this, new era of warfare. Didn't he say something about adversaries feeling fear?
He did. Griffin was deeply concerned about China's growing hypersonic capabilities, believed the U.S. needed a clear advantage. He saw these weapons as a strategic deterrent, a way to project power globally.
That's a pretty intense vision. But the Pentagon isn't exactly known for agility, right?
Yeah.
How did Griffin handle that transition from NASA's fast-paced environment to the, shall we say, more deliberate world of the DoD?
It was a culture clash, to say the least. Griffin, he was used to making decisions quickly, taking risks, but calculated risks. The Pentagon has these layers of bureaucracy, risk aversion.
Right.
He was frustrated by the slow pace, the lack of urgency that he saw.
And this is where the ARW project comes in, right?
Exactly.
Officially the AGM-183A.
Griffin championed this high-profile hypersonic missile program
Okay.
designed to launch from a B-52 bomber, reach speeds up to Mach 8.
Wow.
The idea was to have a weapon that could strike anywhere in the world within an hour.
Giving the U.S. a major advantage, strategically. Sounds impressive, on paper at least. But what were some of those real-world challenges? I mean, ARW must have faced a ton.
Developing a hypersonic weapon, it's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces constantly change shape.
I could imagine.
The technical hurdles are immense. Creating a vehicle that can withstand the heat, the pressure of hypersonic flight, designing an engine for those speeds, ensuring communication, guidance through what we call the black barrier.
Oh, no, the black barrier.
Imagine a wall of superheated plasma forming around the vehicle as it travels at these speeds.
Okay.
That plasma disrupts radio waves, making communication with the missile incredibly difficult. It's like sending a text through a raging fire.
So I can see why they call it a barrier. So how are they even trying to overcome that?
It took some innovative approaches to communication, using lasers or special antennas that could get through that plasma. Developing materials to withstand the incredible heat generated by friction, truly cutting-edge science.
Sounds like ARRW was already facing a mountain of challenges. But then there was the human element, too. That threw a wrench into things, didn't it?
There was. And this is where the story takes a turn into the realm of, let's just say, unconventional behavior.
Okay. All right, let's talk about James Goad. He was the chief scientist at the Air Force Research Laboratory, a key figure in the ARRW project.
Oh.
But there was more going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, Goad had a secret life, a side hustle that would ultimately derail his career and impact the program he was leading.
Before we get into that, what was the overall atmosphere like at the lab? Any red flags that might have hinted at, well, trouble brewing?
From what we've learned, there was a lot of pressure to deliver results.
Right, with Griffin pushing for progress.
Exactly. It created a demanding work environment. But there were whispers of maybe an old boys club mentality, where personal connections, favors, sometimes seem to take precedence over, standard procedures.
That sounds like a recipe for problems.
Yeah.
So back to James Goad. What exactly was his secret side hustle?
It involved escorts, government travel cards, and a scheme to bring a sex worker into a top-secret military facility. It's a bizarre tale. Raises questions about judgment, oversight, and the consequences of unchecked behavior in a high-stakes program.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more about this scheme. How did it all unfold?
It all started when Goad met Amanda Savino on a plane.
Hold on. Did you say he met a sex worker on a plane?
Yes, that's right. And he became, well, infatuated, to the point where he came up with a plan to get her a high-paying job at a hypersonic weapons contractor, Spectral Energies. He wanted to be with her, even if it meant, well, bending the rules and putting national security at risk.
That's a bold move, to say the least. What kind of job did he get her? How do you pull it off?
He fabricated a resume for Savino, claimed she had degrees from top universities, experience in the field, convinced the CEO of Spectral Energies, Sukesh Roy, that she was this, promising young professional with, quote, multiple breakthroughs in her field. The position he got her came with a salary of $250,000 a year.
Wait, $250,000 a year for someone with a made-up resume? How did that not raise any red flags?
It's a question that, baffles a lot of people. It seems Goad used his position, his reputation at the AFRL to push this through. He was a respected scientist and really maybe eager to secure contracts, collaborate with the lab, was willing to, let's say, overlook some inconsistencies.
So Savino lands this job at a top-secret facility. What happens next? Did she manage to keep up the charade?
Not for long. Her lack of qualifications became pretty apparent. She couldn't even use basic office software.
You're kidding? She couldn't even use basic office software. How did she explain that?
Well, it seems Savino had her own unique way of, let's say, contributing to the research. She wasn't exactly focused on spreadsheets and data analysis.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see where this is going. Let's unpack that. What exactly was Savino doing at this lab?
It turns out she was, let's just say, sharing her specialized knowledge with numerous scientists at the lab, including Goad. This wasn't just one scientist making bad decisions. It was a whole web of, well, relationships and favors, inappropriate and ultimately harmful to the program.
So this wasn't just about Goad and Savino. There was a whole network of collaboration going on at a top-secret facility.
It seems that way, and it gets even more bizarre. One scientist paid Savino $20,000 a year to clean his apartment naked. He justified it, saying it freed up his time for research.
Wow, the things people will do in the name of science. But seriously, this sounds like a mess. How did it all come crashing down?
Eventually, Roy, the CEO, realized what was going on, tried to remove Savino from the company.
I can imagine that didn't go over well with Goad.
You're right. He was furious, threatened Roy with racial intimidation, claiming that the AFRL's Old Boys Club wouldn't believe a Bengali immigrant over a white man.
So not just bad judgment, ethical breaches, but potential abuse of power, discrimination. This is getting really messy.
It is. Shows how personal failings can have these far-reaching consequences, especially with national security at stake. Roy eventually decided to blow the whistle, reported Goad to the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, AFOSI.
And what did they uncover?
The AFOSI investigation. They found women's underwear, condoms, erectile dysfunction medication, and a spreadsheet documenting Goad's interactions with 27 escorts.
Okay.
And here's the concerning part. Some of those escorts were from countries that, well, pose a security threat to the U.S.
Wait, escorts from countries that pose a security threat? That raises all sorts of red flags. What was Goad thinking?
It's hard to say, really, but it shows a blatant disregard for security protocols, putting his own desires above, well, his responsibilities.
So what happened to Goad after the investigation? Consequences?
Right before he could be formally charged, Goad committed suicide.
Committed suicide? That seems awfully convenient.
It does, doesn't it? There are questions about whether it was really suicide or something else. But those questions remain unanswered.
And the ARW project, did it survive all this?
No, it did not. A year after Goad's death, the Air Force canceled the program. Stunning end to something that was supposed to be a cornerstone of America's hypersonic ambitions.
Wow, this is a lot to process. High-stakes technology, bureaucratic struggles, betrayal, unanswered questions. Where do we even go from here?
I think the next step is to look at the aftermath of this cancellation, explore the bigger picture. How did the scandal impact the U.S. hypersonic program? What lessons can we learn? We'll delve into those questions in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds like we've got a lot more to uncover. I'm already hooked. Listeners, you don't want to miss the rest of this. Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the U.S. Hypersonic Weapons Program.
The ARW project, it was meant to, catapult the U.S. to the forefront of hypersonic warfare, But it just, well, crashed and burned, left a lot of questions, a lot of concerns.
It's hard to believe, right, that one scientist's actions could have such a big impact on a major weapons program. I mean, yeah, Goad's behavior was reckless, irresponsible, but was he solely responsible for, the ARW's demise?
It's unlikely. His actions alone probably didn't bring down the program. The ARW, it was already facing those huge technical challenges, the extreme heat, the black barrier, the need for those advanced materials and propulsion systems.
Yeah, those were like hurdles any hypersonic program would face. But surely this whole scandal played a role in the cancellation.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like a vote of confidence, right? When the chief scientist is caught in all these lies, misconduct, potential security breaches.
Absolutely. It exposed vulnerabilities, serious ones within the system.
Right.
How could someone with fake credentials even get into a top secret facility and stay there for 2 years? How did all these relationships go unnoticed for so long?
It's mind-boggling. Makes you wonder what else was slipping through the cracks. Were there systemic issues, cultural factors, something that led to this lapse in oversight?
That's a key question. Remember the old boys club mentality?
Yeah.
That culture of favoritism, maybe? Backroom deals. It could have created an environment where rules were bent. Warning signs were ignored. Maybe some people knew about Goad, but were scared to speak up, worried about retaliation or jeopardizing their own careers.
So it wasn't just Goad's failings. There were bigger things at play.
Right.
This seems to kind of validate Michael Griffin's frustration with the Pentagon. That whole bureaucracy, risk-averse culture.
Griffin came in with that vision, right? Transforming the U.S. Hypersonic Program. He wanted to streamline things and empower program managers, foster innovation, but he hit a wall.
Literally ran into that bureaucracy.
Yeah, that slow decision-making, the resistance to change.
Classic story. The visionary leader up against the system. And in this case, it seems the system won.
It's ironic. Griffin was supposed to shake things up, inject urgency, accelerate development.
Right.
But he became a victim of the very system he was trying to fix.
The ARW was supposed to be a game changer, a symbol of, American tech prowess. But instead, it's a cautionary tale.
It highlights how important accountability is, transparency, ethical conduct, especially in government programs. It shows we need strong oversight, prevent abuse, make sure taxpayer money is used responsibly.
This whole saga, Goad, Savino, it's a reminder that even with cutting-edge technology, human weaknesses, they can have big consequences.
It humanizes this whole world of weaponry. We think of hypersonic missiles, they seem futuristic, almost abstract. But behind those designs, algorithms, there are people. People with their own goals, flaws, making choices, good and bad.
Like you said, it's the human element tangled up with technology.
Yeah.
And in this case, that human element had a devastating impact.
The ARRW story, it raises questions about the culture in parts of the defense research world. That old boys club, the way Goad used it to intimidate Roy, suggests a place where connections, favors, they can be more important than, merit or security.
Makes you wonder if there's similar vulnerabilities in other programs, right? What's been done to prevent this from happening again?
That's the big question. After the ARRW scandal, the Air Force, they did a lot of internal reviews, new oversight procedures, emphasized ethical training, whistleblower protections.
Good to hear. But is it enough to really address those deeper issues?
Yeah.
The ones that might have contributed to all of this?
That's tougher to say. Changing culture takes time, sustained effort. It needs commitment from leadership at all levels. Transparency, accountability, ethical conduct.
Right, that has to be a priority. What about those technological challenges? Can the U.S. overcome them? The ones that have, plagued hypersonic development?
The U.S. still has huge capabilities technologically, brilliant scientists, engineers, a whole network of research institutions.
But is that enough? What lessons can we learn from ARRW? What needs to change so the U.S. doesn't fall behind in this hypersonic arms race?
The ARRW story shows us there needs to be a cultural shift at the Pentagon. More emphasis on accountability, transparency, ethical conduct. That old boys club, it needs to be replaced. Meritocracy, integrity.
It's a tall order. But the stakes are high, right? The future of warfare is being shaped right now. The U.S. can't fall behind.
We need to, create an environment where innovation can happen, where risks are taken, but responsibly, where ethical considerations are, they're essential. The ARW project failed, but it can be a lesson, a catalyst for change within the U.S. hypersonic program.
It's a sobering thought. We've uncovered this tale of ambition, intrigue, pretty shocking personal failings. What stands out to you most from this deep dive?
For me, it's that contrast between Griffin's vision, American hypersonic dominance, and the reality.
Right.
He came in with such energy, determination, but he was stopped by a system that wouldn't change. It's a cautionary tale about the challenges of trying to bring innovation to these large organizations.
And the James Goad part, it's just amazing. It shows how even with advanced technology, human weaknesses, ethical lapses, they have a huge impact.
Absolutely. This whole incident raises questions about oversight, accountability, the culture, and the defense research world. It's like a wake-up call. Technological progress isn't just about engineering science. It's about integrity, ethical conduct, commitment to the greater good.
Well, listeners, I don't know about you, but I'm still thinking about everything we've talked about today.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride. Hypersonic weapons, government bureaucracy, scientists, unconventional side hustle.
This story, it reminds us that progress, it's not just about the engineering. It's about the people, their ambitions, their flaws, the systems they're in.
Given all these challenges, what does the future hold? For the U.S. Hypersonic Weapons Program, can it overcome all of this and achieve that dominance, the kind Michael Griffin wanted? Or will it keep facing the same issues that brought down the ARRW project? That's something to think about.
The U.S., it has a history of, rising to these technological challenges. The key is going to be fostering that environment where innovation can flourish, risks are taken responsibly, and ethical considerations, they're paramount.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's unsettling, how one person's choices can have such ripple effects. We've gone from these big goals to a program's downfall, all tied to, well, this web of decisions.
Yeah, it highlights the human factor in all this. We often think of tech progress as purely scientific.
Right.
But as we've seen, it's tied to personal ambitions, flaws, the systems people work within.
Thinking back on everything, what's the most crucial takeaway for our listeners? What do you think?
For me, it's the missed opportunity. Griffin's vision for the U.S., that hypersonic dominance, it was bold. He really believed it was essential for national security. But the system, the one he was trying to change, it ended up holding things back.
It shows us that advancement, it's not just about having those brilliant minds.
Right.
It's about the environment. Can those minds thrive?
Yeah.
Are risks encouraged? But responsibly, of course. And ethical conduct, that has to be a given.
Exactly. And that brings us to a big question for our listeners. Given all these challenges, what does the future hold for the U.S. hypersonic program?
That's the million-dollar question. We've seen how bureaucracy, ethical problems, a culture that just won't change.
Yeah.
It can derail even the most promising projects.
The U.S. still has so much potential, though, in this field. There's talent, resources. But to harness that, we need a change in thinking, a more agile approach, accountability, ethically sound, to weapons development.
It's a tall order, but the stakes are high. The world of warfare is changing, and changing fast. The U.S. can't afford to be left behind.
We have to learn from the mistakes of the past, embrace transparency, accountability, empower people to make those ethical choices, and speak up when they see something wrong.
The ARRW project, it might have failed, but it's a warning, a reminder that progress can't come at the cost of integrity, of doing things the right way.
In the end, it's about priorities, values. What future do we want? One where technology is developed responsibly, ethically, or one where shortcuts, compromises, they lead to, well, consequences we didn't intend?
Those are the questions, we need to be asking ourselves as a nation as we move into this new era of hypersonic warfare.
This deep dive, it's been a journey. Ambition, intrigue, some hard truths. It's a story that shows us how much our choices matter, big and small, how they shape technology and national security.
We hope this has given you, our listeners, a better understanding of how complex this is, the challenges facing the U.S. hypersonic program, and maybe, more importantly, it's made you think about the values, the things that should guide us as we move into this uncharted territory.
The future isn't set in stone. It's shaped by what we choose to do today.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.